Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar information session on the MSc in Experimental and Translational Therapeutics. A big welcome to you all from here in Oxford today, wherever you are in the world. A few notices at the beginning. This event will be recorded, so you can watch back again if you miss anything or any questions are not answered first time. But this really is going to be a short introduction to the MSc, and we'll do a brief run through, what the MSc is, what its aims are, what kind of students we're looking for, etc., etc. And hopefully that will give you a bit more information about the MSc here in Oxford. And the recording will be made available after the event. I'm sure it will be on the website. If you want to ask a question, please use the Q&A function in the Zoom menu. So introductions. Firstly, I am Dr. Elaine Johnstone. I am the Deputy Course Director on the MSc. I work closely with Len Seymour, who you'll see in a moment. I very much work in the translational research side. I'm a research scientist by background, originally a medicinal chemist, and then moved into pharmacology and really into molecular pharmacology. And my main interest is looking at how drugs act. So really understanding drug mechanisms. And once we can do that, we can understand or hope to understand why we see variability in drug response. So outcomes to medicines vary widely, as we know, both in efficacy and in toxicity. So the amount of side effects that patients experience, again, is highly variable. And I'm interested in what reasons those are, whether it's genomic or the clinical reasons. But really, that's been my research study here at Oxford for the past 20 years, or more than 20 years now. So yes, heavily published in this area. And the module that really focuses on this is module 3, which is the module that I lead and is entitled Pharmacodynamics, Biomarkers and Personalized Medicine. And a lot of activity in this space, particularly recently with the large genomic studies that are genomic population studies, such as UK Biobank and Our Future Health, that are looking at population level information, collecting diverse populations and understanding the health impacts of those features. So a little bit about the program itself. Experimental and Translational Therapeutics really focuses on novel drug discovery and development. It really is a very hot area at Oxford at the moment, and has been for many, many years. It provides an opportunity to really tap into the academic side of translational medicine and molecular medicine, really, and push those advances through into benefits for patients. We have a long history of drug discovery and development in Oxford, notably, of course, the discovery of penicillin, which was developed here by Dr. Howard Florey and first tested and trialed here at the Radcliffe Infirmary in the centre of Oxford. The mold on Dr. Florey's coat is a great book if anyone's interested in that, and really focuses on the development of modern medicine, and that's one of the earliest examples of that. But we've got many novel therapeutics which are being developed in Oxford and made available to patients through clinical trials. But really the course focuses on the translational aspects. So it looks at how we discover drugs through our academic bench research, and then how we translate those, so through the clinical trial pipeline, and looking at side effects and efficacy there. We do face-to-face teaching, so there are 6 modules over the course of 2 years usually, although the course is flexible. I'll come on to that in a moment. But face-to-face teaching from Monday to Friday of the module weeks, 9 to 5 every day. So fairly intensive face-to-face module weeks on different underpinning themes, and I'll come on to the modules again in a moment. but really applied to the cutting edge research that's going on here in Oxford. So using a variety of disease area specialties to illustrate, case studies, and really delve deeply into, first principles of drug discovery and development. One of the key strengths of the course is that it's part-time, so it can be taken by people in full-time employment. That's our usual demographic of student, and it's flexible. So studying while working is challenging, can be challenging at times, but we have a very flexible course and a very understanding course team who will make sure that your path is smooth through the course as much as we can. So yes, those are two of the great advantages of our course, and ones that our students really benefit from and really say is valuable to them using while studying the MSc in Experimental and Translational Therapeutics. A lot of our students are working actively in healthcare or in the pharmaceutical industry, also in business and biotech, in early spin-out companies. There's a lot of activity there locally in Oxford in that space, but also, nationally, globally. It's a very exciting time for the development of new medicines. Some of our students work actively in clinical trials, so for CROs or in academic clinical trial units, and very interested in that side of things. Others are from a regulatory background, so really I want to understand kind of how drugs get to them, what makes a drug safe. That's a very important aspect of the course. So usually our graduates have some undergraduate experience in biological sciences or medicine or pharmacy, although not always. Some people come with a business background that are now very much working in that kind of pharmaceutical space and want to fill in the kind of biological knowledge. So that is an option. Some of our students, not all, are looking for some insight into what academic research is like. So how to do clinical research or basic science research, whether that's for them before applying to PhD students. So it serves as a good stepping stone into that, and will certainly give you an experience of that during the dissertation project. Again, I'll come on to that in a moment. And the course takes a real disease agnostic approach, so relevant to many different fields. And again, that's one of the strengths of the course, is that we're not disease area focused. We really draw from the breadth of expertise across the university in many different areas. Oncology is a key strength of the course, but also we do a lot of teaching using a diabetes example. Cardiovascular disease, neuroscience is becoming more of a theme now, and module 2 is heavily based in Alzheimer's research. So a very exciting space for drug development and clinical trials at the moment. So we have the opportunity to kind of tailor our course to current trends in drug development. And again, that keeps it at the cutting edge of that area, because we surveil the drug development landscape and see actually what are our students going to be interested in. Obviously novel gene therapies and CRISPR-Cas9 being the next frontier. Biological therapies very much pushing on in the clinical trial space at the moment and becoming available to patients, albeit with a fairly large price tag. But we talk about all issues such as this, and to see and really dig deeply into themes surrounding novel therapeutic development. As I briefly mentioned, the course consists of 6 talk modules, so you'll come to Oxford 6 times over the course of 2 years for these 1-week intensive modules on different themes. In the second year, usually the students will choose a dissertation topic that is helpful to them. We don't routinely offer off-the-shelf dissertation projects. We want the research to be useful, valuable, not only to the field at large, but also to the continuing professional development of the student. So tailored to what their interests are. They can be, again, quite broad. All the modules are compulsory. they can be taken in any order. So again, that flexibility comes in. The modules run on fixed dates every year. So again, that's scheduling, it's helpful to know those in advance. We do usually recommend that module 1 is taken first, because it very much covers the key themes and touches on key themes that we explore in more depth in future modules. But again, that's not compulsory. Again, module 6 we usually recommend is taken at the end, and that's just because of, again, scheduling. But and that brings together the kind of more scientific aspects of the course, I would say. But again, we are open to suggestion for a unique program of study, and every student can speak to us about their own particular journey through the course. It's usually completed within 2 years, and the dissertation is taken in the final year. So the modules are listed here, and we think really span that drug development pipeline, as I'll come on to in a second. So module 1 focuses on, how clinical trials work, what they are, why we design them, how we can best get the answers that we seek, and really, as I say, touches upon lots of themes that we explore further in later modules. Module 2 focuses on early drug discovery, development, pharmacokinetics and imaging. Module 3 looks at pharmacodynamics, so how drugs act, biomarkers, how we can use biomarkers to inform our clinical trials and maximize the information from them, and personalized medicine. Module 4 is a really nice module, a study of adverse drug reactions, drug interactions and pharmacovigilance. So that spans the kind of post-marketing aspects of drug as well as clinical trial space. Module 5 is a very practical module, and really teaches people how to do clinical research, how to construct a protocol, which is the cornerstone document of any clinical trial. So really, the students really enjoy this module and get a chance to construct their own protocol throughout the week. Very interactive module. And module 6 brings together research across Oxford on biological therapies, again, from any disease area specialty. And here's the process which we try to encompass during the course teaching. As you can see, her drug discovery process is long. It spans 10 to 15 years. Traditionally, although things are accelerating slightly post-COVID, but it's still a relatively large investment in terms of time and money. And drug discovery, where we start with kind of, a large number of compounds which may be viable to turn into future medicines. We move through into drug development and preclinical research with our test compounds. Then, on the back of that, we launch our clinical trial process, which itself takes about at least 6 years to do, to get through the various phases. So phase 1, very early phase trials looking at safety of the medicine. Phase 2, looking more at efficacy. Phase 3 trials compare to current best treatments and see if they are superior or not inferior. And phase 4, we don't really cover on the course, but for completeness, I've included it here, where we look at post-marketing, although adverse drug reactions does cover that. So then a new drug can be approved by a regulator, again, which takes between half a year and 2 years, and then on into looking at our one approved drug in the post-market environment. So looking at safety monitoring, as I've mentioned. So it's all encompassing, and I think quite a challenge to map that onto our MSc, but one that we've risen to and had a lot of experience with now. And as I say, the course does adapt on an annual basis to look at those key medicines that are being approved or in late phase trials, and saying, let's look at those in depth and see what learnings we can gain from those. Our students generally come with expertise in one of these areas, so not all of it. We don't expect students to come with a comprehensive background knowledge. Some of them will be in the earlier phase trial space, some perhaps in R&D, some in regulation, and you know, in one of those modules they will feel fairly comfortable, but stretched by our teaching, as we want to do, improve our knowledge and learning. But you know, to really encompass that pipeline, I think, is the aim of the program, and to really to give an awareness of the other parts of it. So look in a more holistic manner. The whole drug discovery process will hopefully inform us to design and develop better medicines in future. That's our aim. The teaching staff here is Professor Seymour, who I've worked with for many years now. He's the course director and is an expert, so professor of gene therapies here at Oxford. Many of you may know him. Myself, as Module 3 lead, Professor Rachel Kerr, who's a medical oncologist who is the co-lead on Module 1. Dr. Emma Mead, as I said, works very much in Alzheimer's drug discovery and early development, leads Module 2. Dr. Michael Theodorakis, who is a diabetician clinician. Very exciting space at the moment with obesity drugs, you know, the early data from those indicating health benefits for diabetic patients. And Dr. Grant Vallance and Susan Tonks, who are our co-module leads for Module 5, and between them have expertise in many, many aspects of protocol design, ethics, and monitoring, so clinical trial monitoring, both of whom have sat on ethics committees and are happy to share that expertise. The learning objectives, I won't read out, they're here for your information, and I think I've touched on most of them already, but we're looking at principles of drug design and development, really the first principles from basic clinical pharmacology through to, you know, clinical research. I think that's our aim. We touch on how drugs act, what the body does to the drug and what the drug does to the body. Look at drug mechanism, that's my favorite topic. We look at how imaging is becoming more important in drug development, and particularly using imaging outcomes to gain insight into what's happening within the body that we can't perhaps see peripherally. How best to design clinical trials for a range of interventions we touch on. We look at using biomarkers within trials to see, to support trial endpoints and maximize our information, and look at that variability between patients that I mentioned right at the beginning. Adverse drug reactions, ethics, and cutting edge science in Module 6 is the last learning objective. So as I mentioned already, we like you to come to Oxford for 6 one-week modules face-to-face. We find that face-to-face teaching is really optimal for this course because of the diversity of delegates, students that we attract. It is an amazing bunch. Every year we manage to get a really interesting bunch of students to come along. And they all have different expertise. So again, it's not like you're in the same room, you know, everybody knows the same thing as you and doesn't know the same thing as you. Actually, the dynamic between the students is one of the key strengths of the course, and the interaction with the lecturers, who are more than happy to ask questions. And we find our students ask very insightful questions, and you know, feel free to ask questions that are based in your reality, based on your experience. Our tutors, you know, have a breadth of knowledge that can tell you how best they did it in their particular area, but you know, shared experience we find is a great way to start discussions off. And I think because of the diversity in our student body, you know, the networking that happens kind of incidentally is another key strength of the course. So each of the modules, back to the assessment, comes with its own associated assignments. Those are submitted after the module is finished, so you get a period of time to submit your written work electronically. 4,000 word assignments for each module, and they're based on a variety of topics, variety of formats. Some are long essays, some are long answers, some are short answers, some are opinion pieces. So we try to keep our assessments authentic, based on what our students will have to write in the real world. So helpful in that way. The dissertation project is a novel piece of research or literature review or systematic review. Again, it can take many formats, and that depends on the student really. And this is written up as a 15,000 word dissertation thesis, which is submitted in the September of your dissertation year. The kinds of students that we look for, I've mentioned the diversity of our student body, and their own expertise is very helpful to the discussions in class, but we generally look for a first or upper second class undergraduate science degree. Can be any science really. Biological science is listed here, but chemistry is also acceptable. Medical sciences, obviously, pharmacy or nursing. We have a variety of nurses that have taken our course and found it very useful. If you don't have this, then don't be put off applying. Do open a dialogue with us, particularly if you're working or have substantial professional experience in the area. So often, as I say, people may have a business or economic or maths background that's lent them, but now they've been working in the biotech or pharmaceutical sector for many years, and can demonstrate equivalent competence. So do get in touch if that's you. Don't just write off applying. We're always interested to hear about people actively working in the sector. Applications for 2025 entry are now open. We're about to start term with our new cohort, which is always a very exciting time. I would advise you to apply as early as possible, because applications only remain open if places are still available. The January deadline is the 29th here, Wednesday the 29th, and that's the latest deadline to apply for most Oxford scholarships. So that's the first deadline where, you know, lots of MSc courses will be assessing their applications. And I would encourage you, if at all possible, if you're at all interested in doing this course, to submit an application for that deadline. The second deadline is Tuesday, the 4th of March, 2025. If you, for any reason, come to this recording later than the January deadline, there is still time. But college places after March are more and more difficult to find, because they fill up from October, and our undergraduates and graduate colleges, you know, are very highly sought after. So all colleges, all students, that are matriculated onto this MSc course are attached to a college. The colleges have autonomy over who they do and don't accept, but you will have an admission from the department, and also then have to secure a college place. Now that's handled by us, but you know, college places are fairly hard to get the later you apply in the cycle. So I would encourage early application where possible. As I mentioned, you will become a member of one of the famous interdisciplinary colleges, and there you will meet many diverse individuals who are studying many diverse courses, and that's one of the real strengths of the collegiate system, is that you get to meet and socialize over dinner with many people who are advancing their learning in different areas. The colleges I've listed that here that accept our students, many of our students, or a lot of our students, do come to Kellogg College, which is the focus of continuing education, and I'm a fellow of Kellogg myself, but St Hilda's, New College, Wolfson, St Cross, Reuben College, which is one of the new colleges, the newer colleges here, graduate colleges, St Catherine's, Wycliffe and Campion, which are the smaller halls, do take our students. Have a look at which college, you know, suits you. Kellogg, Wolfson and St Cross and Reuben are graduate only colleges, so serve a slightly different audience, but some people prefer that. St Hilda's new and St Catherine's are undergraduate and graduate, so a slightly different dynamic there. But again, have a look at the colleges online before you apply, and in your application, again, I would encourage you to choose a college that's your first choice, that, you know, we can then seek a college place from at an early stage. But all colleges are really amazing places to be. They all have their different strengths and diverse student bodies again. So really have a look at and choose that wisely. Just a note here on the link that we have to the pharmaceutical medicine specialty training. And again, do get in touch if that's something that applies to you. It doesn't apply to everybody. It's if you're enrolled for that specialty training, then certain modules on our course can cover aspects of their curriculum. So they may give CPD points or count towards their CPD record. But do get in touch with us if that applies to you and you're interested in further information about that. Again, we can speak to the educational advisor of the student and make sure that's all above board and registered accordingly. But yeah, I won't go into that any further. So over to some of our students. Our student feedback on this course is really excellent, and we get a variety of students in a variety of life stages coming onto our course. Ernie here is one of our recent students. He was originally a lawyer, I believe, and then was really interested in biomedical sciences generally, so took our course in order to learn about novel drugs that were coming out, but he was very interested in toxicology, which was rewarding to him. And I'll leave it, I won't read out his quote, but he's highly praised of our course and recommends it highly. Josh Hughes here, who again was possibly in earlier stages in his career, so he was an early stage bench scientist looking to potentially make the leap to a PhD and wanted to do an MSc, worked in biological therapeutics himself and wanted to experience life as an academic before committing. He highlights that our modules do feature, again, diverse speakers, so a number of guest lectures from industry. We have medical professionals and academics here in Oxford, so it's nice to see that being recognised by our students. Yes, so now I think I've summed up the course, possibly not in its entirety because it's a lot to talk about, but hopefully I've given you some insight into how our course works, what kinds of students we're looking for, and if anybody has any questions out there, I'm happy to field them. As mentioned, please use the Q&A function. Hopefully they'll be relayed through to me to try to answer. I can see one question. Do any clinical trainees complete this as a less than full-time trainee? That's quite a specific question, and one which I don't know as any have completed it as less than a full-time trainee off the top of my head. We do have trainees come, certainly junior doctors, take our course, but they're usually full-time. Again, Katrin, if you've got specific questions on specific circumstances, then please do email that in and we'll endeavour to answer that fully. But I think it is flexible. You can extend the course if you're worried about workload, but our clinical trainees that are usually here are usually in full-time trainee positions. Yeah, so thank you for asking about the module order. Some people like to do the modules in numerical order. I think it very much depends on the student schedule. You can do module 3, 4, 5, and 2 in any order. So I would usually suggest that you try to balance the years that you are studying with us, so you don't kind of, do you see what I mean? You don't load your first year or your second year with 5 modules, although some people do that. Again, we're very flexible, so it very much depends on the student's schedule. You can do, I would suggest that you do, lots of our students do a 4+2 model. So they do 4 modules in their first year, 2 in their second year, because they were doing their dissertation as well in their second year. So that is quite a lot of work in the background, as well as completing your assignments. Some people prefer a 3+3 model. Some people extend the length of time that they study. But really, apart from module 1 coming first, any order, as I say, do look at the module dates on the website. These are published well in advance, and decide which ones appeal to you in which particular year of study. So all the lectures and seminars are held at the moment in Rewley House, which is in Wellington Square in central Oxford. So you're always based there, in different rooms within there, but usually based there. And we find our students like the central location because they have a variety of accommodation options. They can stay in college or at one of the central hotels or Airbnb, but they like to be central. It does open up the kind of side that you can walk around Oxford in the evening, the more social side. You can get easily to college dinners, but our lectures and seminars are all based in Rewley House. Again, I think colleges, college applications, I would just have a look at their website. I think that if you're a more mature student, then the graduate colleges may be more suitable, but that's just my personal view. I don't think any of them specialize in particularly in entrepreneurship or venture capital. They look for a variety of student diversity again in their student cohort. But do look at the website for each college and see what kinds of things they are interested in. Which academics are, associated with there. Len is associated with Walthan, myself with Kellogg, other academics on the course are at St. Cross. So those are kind of those colleges are quite close, again, to the north side of Oxford, where your lectures and seminars will be held. It's really a personal choice. The college decision is a personal choice. I think, it depends on the student. It depends on your age, your kind of general motivation for study, what you want out of a college. Are you interested in, joining every club, or are you interested in kind of meeting more postgraduates? Again, it very much varies, but do research that yourself and ask us any questions. All colleges that are available to the course are available to our students to apply to. These colleges do give a kind of extra dimension to studying in Oxford, and a lot of our students do use those to kind of socialize. A lot of our students who are overseas perhaps don't access them outside of those module weeks as much as they would like to. But, there's lots of things to take into consideration. They do provide, you all get a college advisor who's like an independent academic that you can talk to about your course, and you're advised to meet with them on a termly basis. And they can often open new doors and avenues to different types of networking. But colleges are really, again, really, it's one of the strengths of the Oxford system is that you get, your course body of students and then your college body of students, and all the matriculation, which is when you first turn up at the university, you have to be admitted into the university in a formal ceremony, and graduation, particularly when you finish the course, that's all organised through your college. Yes, so the dissertation is something that does cause, well, again, it can be highly variable, and students are often unsure when they first start the course what area they're going to study or want to study. Some students have a very firm idea, a very clear idea of something that's helpful to them. For others, it can be an evolving project that we talk about very often throughout the first year. So you're not left on your own. It's a very supportive environment, and we're starting that process for our first years. In a couple of weeks, we will start talking about dissertations. Recently, dissertations that I have supervised are a literature review on checkpoint inhibitors and novel targets for that. I've also supervised a dissertation on novel biomarkers, so looking to introduce novel biomarkers for liver disease to potentially replace or offer an alternative to liver biopsy. So clinical research project there. Also, we've had we have such diverse projects. It's hard to think of them off the top of my head. What else have I supervised? So we've had a health economics of gene therapy. That was quite an interesting dissertation. We do have dip our toe into health economics, but it's not one of the key kind of tenets of the course. But if students are interested in that, they can, pursue their own research in that area, and we will assign an academic to supervise that. That's one of the benefits of the breadth of the course, is that we tap into a large amount of academic departments to offer supervision. It's not just the course team who supervise dissertations. Does that help, James? The dissertation, so we talk about dissertations and what they entail and how we develop the project from the very day one. And so we're ready to go kind of the first day of year 2. Your dissertation project will start, and you have 3 terms to do that because it's part-time, so it's longer than a usual dissertation project. Sometimes our students are lucky enough to have some sabbatical time, which they use to come into Oxford for a period of that, or study leave. But that's not always the case. So we really do design our dissertations bespoke to each individual student, because again, that's very variable what time the students can commit, where they're based, how much they can travel, what skills they want to learn, what do they want to get out of their dissertation. It's a really nice project, and a lot of our students don't have much experience of doing research. You're actually performing research. They're very familiar with reading research publications and interpreting data, but actually doing primary research, it gives you a really good opportunity, from designing your research question. What is your hypothesis? How am I going to answer this? What data can I access that's in the public domain, perhaps? And how am I going to best present my results? It is a really important part of the MSc itself. Thank you, James. There are no placements available per se, so we don't, as I said, we don't have off-the-shelf projects. There is opportunity to network, certainly, with our course tutors and guest speakers. So it's not impossible that could be arranged, although that's not what we offer as standard. That could be, something that the student could take on the responsibility for arranging themselves. but we provide the networking opportunities, certainly, in the dissertation to facilitate the dissertation phase. It's a slightly different process to a full-time MSc, when students will come in, and be given a 3-month project, usually in the laboratory, to complete and write up within that time. It's a different experience to that. It's more tailored towards part-time students, particularly who have other commitments, and it's very supported throughout the year. It does help some students if they have local supervision where they work. So if they work in a hospital in Cambridge, for example, if they've got a local supervisor there that can help, in partnership with their Oxford supervisor, that's quite a powerful model. It's not essential. Some of our students are very capable and independent and don't need that, so we don't insist on that. Others want to do their research kind of quasi-independently. Others do it for their company, so there are, again, a variety of different models. It becomes, I think, because it can be anything, it sometimes seems a little bit ethereal at first. I'm not being elusive. I'm not I'm not trying not to answer your question. It's just that it really depends on the student context. But I'm always there to support during the dissertation phase, and that's my main role, apart from module 3 lead, is really to manage the dissertation projects for all the students and make sure that everybody is on track. Thank you. I think that may be the end of the questions. So it just remains for me to thank everybody for coming along to this recorded session today. I hope it's been helpful. Thank you very much for joining, and I really look forward to receiving any applications. Okay, thank you all.